Maurice Nicoll, Psychological Commentaries, Volume 4, Amwell, October 13th, 1951, Remembering and Willing the Work. It has been mentioned and on many occasions emphasized that the work is taken only into memory and not into life cannot change us. That is to say, to recall the ideas and teaching of the work from time to time so that the memory of them does not fade is not enough. However, carefully it is done. Certainly, one side of the work is to remember it. Not to remember it would be like attending class saying in French and remembering nothing of what was said. The result would be that nothing of the language is taken into memory. This can be due to a person's never realizing that he or she must try to register in the memory what is being taught. And that unless he or she makes this effort, nothing will ever be learnt, whether it be French or anything else. Not only must what is taught be registered in the memory, it must also be recalled. Unless it is recalled, it will soon become confused and muddled or fade completely. Have you yet noticed that it is very difficult to remember? A person may have an incoherent memory in which nothing is arranged rightly, and in consequence, everything is wrongly connected. For such a person, it is necessary to work hard intellectually and to get the ideas arranged in some order. Others may mix up the ideas of the work with the price of bacon, or with that of what the doctor said to Aunt Sue. In this case, there is no sense of scale, and therefore no valuation of the work. Everything is taken at the same level. As a result, everything is jumbled up, so there is no proper memory. Again, some really have no capacity to remember ideas, although they can remember things very well. They remember who was at the meeting and where they sat, but cannot recall anything about what was said. Others again take in very little owing to the wrong attitude to the work. For the work to enter one must have the right attitude to it. The sign will be that it will register on the memory. Again, some may remember words spoken and nothing else. Behind the words spoken stands an idea. Being blind, they remember only the words. The sign is that you speak of the same idea, but use different words to express its meaning, and they will say, but you said something quite different last year. This often bewilders them. This literal word memory is useful provided it does not dominate the mind. Mr. Ouspensky used to ask people not to listen always to the words, but to the meaning behind them. That is, to try to understand them. Then you will begin to remember the ideas, and then later you will see what are their right connections. But you need also word memory. Often sentences you remember and did not pay attention to come back years afterwards, and you see the meaning of them shining through the words. Moreover, we have to especially keep in mind that the work demands the use of the special language. As an esoteric system, it uses special words in special ways. For that reason, people in this work can begin to understand one another once they learn its language better than people in life do. In life, the same word may have as many different meanings as many different people use it. For example, what does the word love mean? For one person in life, it has this meaning. For another person, it has a different meaning, and so on. But in the work, if the word was used, one would first ascertain whether conscious or mechanical love were meant. Also, these special words, conscious and mechanical, used in the work would have to be known, and so on. From all this, we can see that a word memory is also necessary in order to take in the work. But to return to the opening sentence of this paper, where it was said that if the work is taken only into the memory and not into the life, it cannot change us. Recently, in these commentaries, we have spoken of the connection between love and will. It was said that if we had all possible knowledge but had no love for it, our will could not enter it. That means that if we have no love for the work, we will not will the work. Unless we will the work, it cannot change us. And since this work that we are studying is about change of being, the work will not affect anything. Indeed, it cannot affect anything in us. We know that our being attracts our life. If our being remains unaltered, everything else will remain the same, and it will be the case if we do not will the work. If we secretly deny or sneer at it or hate the work, no connection between our knowledge of it and our level of being can be made. But if we value the work, if we feel love for it, we will work our knowledge of the work and from that do it. The sign of this stage being reached, or rather beginning to be reached, is the feeling of I changes. This shifting of the feeling of I makes it possible for being to change. But the will must enter the knowledge of the work, and if you have love towards the work, it can only be will for good or goodwill. Then you will have a lamp and oil in it. The strange thing is that a man may have knowledge of the work and even see the truth of it and not will it. It may seem strange, but it is so. In this case, the union of esoteric marriage between truth and good will not take place. You will have a lamp, but no oil. Many years ago, Mr. Ouspensky said the following at one of the London meetings. I was not present at the meeting, but the note that was sent to me a few days ago by a member who was. You will see several connections with all that we have recently been speaking about it at the meetings here. At a meeting held sometime in 1938, Mr. Ouspensky spoke about the danger of division into two, which can take place in people. He said that some people can go on for a long time in the work, and there is one side of them that may be useful for the work, which understands much, but there is another side which is useless and even hostile and negative to the work. He said that a complete division, so to speak, on these lines can take place and can result in crystallization of the two, which is extremely difficult to break down and get right. He said this can come about when people make no effort along the line of will. They do nothing to develop will, and although one side of them understands a lot, yet it is all useless. The chief characteristic of the state is that although people do understand quite a lot, they do nothing about the work. He said there could even be quite a lot of understanding in such cases, but it's all useless. The emphasis was on efforts to develop will as the way of avoiding this crystallization into two, the beginning of separation from the feeling of I in the body. Some of you I notice, have some difficulty in understanding that if you identify with your body and get every feeling from I from it, as a consequence, you cannot remember yourselves. Some of the questions asked in the smaller groups have interested me. All esoteric teaching is based on the idea that man is not his physical body alone. A man who takes himself solely as his physical body is making a great mistake because there is far more in him than is represented by his physical body. The work teaches that man is given at birth an organized physical body, and it is marvelous, as some of you younger people should reflect. How the complicated physical body with its different systems, digestive, vascular, nervous, secretory, and all the rest of it, can be made in the course of 9 months of our time. One thing you must agree with is that our primitive, original fertilized cell from which our myriad cell physical body is derived, there must be some organizing, controlling principle that connects up to all of its further divisions and arranges them in order. Yes, life is order. Nothing can live if it is in disorder. Here you are given a brain with its 2,000 million nerve cells. You're given a liver, a breathing system, which can run itself, a muscular system, a digestive system, and so on. And we all take this for granted and cannot understand the simple idea that life depends on order, which must have a higher order that controls it. Unless everything were ordered in us, from the highest to the lowest, we should not be able to exist physically on this earth. As I implied, very few people think about the miracle of existence, but simply take it for granted. When something goes wrong with this order in our bodies, we have to go to the doctor. An illness is due to disorder in the body. An illness is due to something not being in the right order, something that does not correspond to the fundamental order of the body and its different functions, arranged in scale or order. We can see, therefore, without much disagreement, that order is a principle on which all living organisms are based. If they are not in order, they die. The work teaches that this order is connected with what is called the law of octaves, or law of things in order, or law of seven, the supreme example of which is the ray of creation. Here you apprehend things are in order, one below another, and all in continual creation. In the ray of creation, one is shown that everything descends by notes from the original, the unknown origin of all things, which is called the absolute. The order of the body is, therefore, an octave because it works. If the order of the body be wrong somewhere, then the law of octaves cannot work in it, because force flowing in from the highest to the lowest would be interrupted. That is, one would have disorder. Suppose, for example, that your brain were invaded by your liver. One can see at once that if it did this, you would die, because the brain is at a much higher level than is the liver, and the liver again is as much higher than the skin cells that form your skin. Therefore, all order is on the principle of higher and lower. That is, that which commands and that which obeys. And that is the fundamental structure of all living organisms. Even the amoeba, this little living single cell that we have to study in laboratories, has structure in it, and it has a nucleus in it that has to control the whole and corresponds to the brain. But the body is not the highest in man. In man, as distinct from animals, we have a peculiar case. All esoteric teaching says the same thing, namely that man is born incomplete. He is given his body as are animals. There is in him something that he can develop, however, apart from the physical body even given to him. Animals do not have this possibility, but man has. So therefore, man is a peculiar creation. He can develop another body apart from his physical body. In which direction or where do the possibilities of this development lie? And what can we roughly call his psychological part? This is not in order. Man is given an ordered physical body as a gift, but he is not given an ordered psychological body as a gift. He must develop this psychological body so that it becomes organized in the same kind of way, that is, through order, as is his physical body. All this work is about organizing the psychological body, and indeed up to the point when this psychological body, ordered in the right way, can not only control the physical body and its actions, but even exist independently of the physical body. So we find at first that this is a difficult thing to discover, what this work is about. And we ask questions and we cannot understand the answers. And we wonder whether we got into contact with something that is just pure nonsense. But the work is not nonsense. No one can start the work and begin to see what it is about until he or she realizes that his or her psychological state is completely chaotic and has no order in it corresponding to the body and its order. So work begins by saying things like this. You have got to realize that you are not one, but many different eyes. You have no real permanent eye, but a mass of changing eyes. At one moment, one eye speaks through your telephone, that is your voice. And at another point, another moment, another eye says something quite contradictory. Why do we have to realize this? Through self-observation. Simply because it may break up our sleep, our self-satisfaction about ourselves, and make it possible for us to understand that our psychological life is not in any kind of order, but on the contrary, in chaos. Now, everything said in this work, everything you are told to observe has one object, and one object which is pointing in the same way, that is, to the realization that your inner life is in chaos, although you assume that it is not. As long as you say that you have only one permanent eye, that you have real will, that you do not swing on the pendulum of love and hate and so on, you are asleep to yourself. Although you may be a very astute man of business or a person who is cleverly adapted to external life, when a man begins to see his inner chaos through the light of this work, when he sees all through this self-observation and sees that he is full of illusions about himself, such a man has begun to awaken. Such a man has begun to do what he was really created for and to awaken to what his inner state is like. That is, to see the difference between external, careful, and even ritual behavior, what he internally feels. Afterwards, when he has awakened as fully as he can at his level, he will then wish to die to a small extent to what he was before, and only then can he be reborn in a small way. When he is reborn, he will no longer identify himself with his physical body because he will have an utterly different, a new sense of what I means. In fact, he will be moving towards real I, which is really himself, but far away from all of us. At Easter time, we perceived what was enacted physically, the awakening, death, and resurrection. All that we can do at present is to try to awaken. Here's a note on faith. Now, when Jesus, had ended all his sayings in the audience of people, he entered into Capernaum, and a certain centurion's servant who was dear unto him was sick and ready to die. And when he heard of Jesus, he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, beseeching him that he would come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, they besought him instantly, saying that he was worthy for whom he should do this. For he loveth our nation, and he hath built us a synagogue. Then Jesus went with them. And when he was now not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Lord, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy that thou shouldest enter under my roof. Wherefore neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee. But say in a word, and my servant shall be healed. For I also am a man set under authority, having under me soldiers. And I say unto one, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at him, and turned him about, and said unto the people that followed him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And they that were sent, returning to the house, found the servant whole that had been sick. That's from Luke 7, verses 1 through 10. For I am a man under authority. Christ was under the authority. And I have men under me, and I say to one, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh. Christ marveled that the centurion saw so deeply into what faith means. Never have I seen such faith, no, not in all of Israel. Faith is seeing scale invisible, and by this vision, mountains can be removed. Christ said, only believe, only have faith, which means only see where I stand in the scale of being invisible, and under whose authority I am, namely that of God, who is a spirit and can only be worshiped in spirit and in truth. Faith is belief in something higher. Unless you have faith, you cannot remember yourself.